All right, good. So as Courtney said, I'm a teacher trainer, um, a storyteller, a novelist, um, and I live in just outside Cardiff, actually, in a place called Pontypridd in Wales, which is about the only word I can say in French. I think it's Pays de Galles, isn't it? Is Welsh, is Wales in French. Um, and I've been teaching for a long time. I taught in the Czech Republic. I've taught in Japan, in Croatia. I saw one of you is from the Basque country, Pays de Basque, and I worked in the Basque country, but in the Spanish side of that, and I've worked in Portugal as well. So I've taught in lots of different places. I've got two talks for you today. The first one is about games in the classroom, and then the second one is about global skills in the classroom. Some people might say I'm a lazy teacher because I like activities that I can use alongside my course book that are going to be very quick to set up, very easy to do, don't take a lot of preparation, but hopefully get the students involved in things and feeling like they're part of the lesson. I also realized that you guys are teaching online at the moment. I've been doing some online teaching with Cardiff University. It's not the best situation in the world. So I tried to make most of these activities at least adaptable to being online, and I'll try and do a few things as we go along using the tools that we have to help with online teaching as well. So hopefully you'll get something out of this. We sort of start off at the beginning with some quite young activities, but as we go up, they get older and older throughout the two sessions together. I will ask you to sort of take part in a couple of the activities by chatting in the chat box to do things. If you've got questions, then put them in the Q&A box and I'll deal with them at the end. Okay, so let's get started. Let's start off with a list of words. Just take a moment to have a look at those words. Okay. So I'm going to use all of these words in this talk. Okay. So as the talk goes on, I will say these words maybe once, maybe many times. I just want you to have a think about how I use them. Okay. So you can maybe take a screenshot of that, take a photo with your phone. Just as I go through, just be aware of these words and think about how I use them. And I'm going to return to these words at the end of this first hour, and we can look at how I did use them. Okay, so just be aware that I'm going to come back to these words. Okay. So let's go on. This is a photo that I took of some Czech students in a school in just outside Prague in the Czech Republic. Must be about 6 or 7 years ago now. I was doing a talk there for Oxford, and I had my iPad attached to the projector, and on my iPad I had Angry Birds, the game. And these children were helping out at the conference. It was at their school, and they were kind of the people who were helping out, who were guiding people to the right seats. And they saw that I had Angry Birds on my iPad, and they asked if they could play. And so I said, yeah, of course you can, off you go. And it was very interesting to watch them because they crowded round, as you can see, and they tried to play, and they had a go at different ways of doing the activities. And you can see that there's 4 boys around the iPad and 2 girls watching the screen. They were helping each other. They were telling each other what to do. They were giving each other advice. They were taking it in turns nicely to have a go. And then after a little while, the girls who had been watching just sort of pushed the boys out of the way and said, we'll do it now. And they showed the boys how to do it. And they'd been watching. What I noticed, though, was that the boys were trying all sorts of things. They were shooting the birds up and over the blocks. They were shooting them along the floor to see if that worked. They didn't mind getting things wrong. They were willing to take risks, they were willing to experiment, they were willing to just basically have a go. And I was thinking, I wish that my students, who at the time were around the same age, would do a similar kind of thing in English. I wish they would have a go. I wish that they would try. I wish they would take risks. I wish they would make mistakes. I wish that they would help each other. And quite often you'd see that they wouldn't do those kind of things in the classroom, but they would when they were playing games. So I started wondering about the power of games and how we can get students to play games and to learn. I've got at the top there playing to learn, so they're learning while they're playing. And I've also got at the top they're learning to fail. They're learning how to fail, how to make mistakes, how to get things wrong, how to learn from their mistakes and get things right later. So that's what I kind of realized that games do for students. So games teach students, and when you watch kids play computer games, you'll notice that they do this all the time. It teaches them to try again. It doesn't matter if they get it wrong, because they get to start again. They get 3 new lives and off they can go again. So it teaches them to try again when they don't succeed. It teaches them to take risks, to experiment with different things, to have a go. It teaches students to help each other, to advise each other. And it gives them a sense of fun, a sense of feeling that things are interesting. Things are, the learning experience is positive. And that's what we're looking for the students to do, to go away having felt that things are positive in their English classroom. So they want to come back in the future. Okay. So I think there's a lot to be said for the power of play. And I think if we see it as a learning experience and not just as a playing experience, then it can be very useful indeed. So what kind of games am I talking about? What kind of things can we do in the classroom? So I'm going to show you a range of activities. Now, some of these you may know already. Some of them you may do already. Some of them maybe you don't do quite exactly how I would set them up. Some of them maybe you do, you've never done before and you think that you could use. So hopefully there'll be something for everybody here. So the course book I've based a lot of these ideas on is called Bright Ideas. And in Bright Ideas is a character called Norman. And Norman is always hiding. And so I thought that I could have Norman hiding throughout my talk today. Okay, so if you see Norman at any time during my talk, I want you to type into the chat box. I want you to type Norman in the chat box. So as soon as you see this little fella, this little lizard, this chameleon that's always hiding throughout the course book, I want you to type the word Norman in the chat box. Okay. And yeah, somebody, a Weeches has already done that because they can see Norman on the screen. So they've done that already. So that's perfect. Okay, so if you see Norman, type the word Norman in the chat box. Okay, thank you, Natalia. That's great. So we've got a few people doing that already. Okay, let's move to the next slide. Oh, by the way, you can see Norman. If you look, you can see Norman where it says find Norman. Just there, look. That's where you can see Norman. If you see Norman on a course book page, I don't want you to send the word Norman to me, okay? Only when you see him on my slide somewhere else, hiding somewhere on my slide, okay? Only when I put him in there somewhere, all right? So, I'm going to regret doing this Norman thing, aren't I? I'm going to just have lots and lots of Normans in my chat box. That's all it's going to say. I want to focus on the left-hand side of this page. So this is where the course book is teaching the vocabulary to the students, and the students are encouraged to say, listen and repeat. And I might want to use flashcards for this with my students. So I'll hold up the flashcards and the students say the words, but I want to make that more interactive, more fun, more interesting. Okay. Now, obviously you guys are on mute, so you can't speak to me. but I might have so I'm going to do this myself. I'm going to speak to myself here, but I might have some flashcards and I might hold up play football, and my students would repeat play football, and then I'll hold up play tennis, and my students will repeat play tennis. Ride a horse, my students will repeat. Run, run, ride a bike, rollerblade, rollerblade. So my students are repeating, they're saying the words nicely. I've done a nice little drill. So then, after doing that, I put these on the board and I just say the word 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. Okay, so number 1, and the students will say play football. Number 3, the students will say ride a horse. Number 5, they'll say ride a bike. Okay, but then I turn them over and I still keep saying the number. So number 1, play football. Number 6, and the students have to remember what was there. So they have to say rollerblade. And then I turn over another one and I keep going. Number 2, number 4, number 3, number 1, and the students have to say what they remember. Okay, so we do that. And in the end, none of them are there. And then we call out number 2, number 4, number 5, number 1, etc. And the students are still trying to remember what's there. So it's just trying to make them think a little bit more, and then I can reveal a few if they're struggling, or I can just keep them hidden. Okay, so it's just a slightly different way of drilling, just makes it a little bit more interesting. I see a question in the chat box about the resources or the flashcards, etc. I believe that with Bright Ideas, a flashcard pack comes with it. If you haven't got the flashcards, then any pictures will do for this kind of activity. So they could just be pictures from a magazine, etc. Those kind of things that you can put on the board, or that you can find online and put on a screen and make this kind of activity. So this kind of activity could work online with your students if they've got their microphones on, depending on how you're teaching them online. Okay, so it's something that can be done quite cheaply, quite quickly. I'm not spending too much time with this. All I'm doing is using my flashcards and turning them around while they're stuck to the board, or finding pictures I can use online. Okay. So yeah, exactly as Courtney said there. Now, my next activity is called Simon Says. Now, everybody, I'm sure, knows how to play Simon Says. Okay, so if you don't, for some reason, you've never come across Simon Says, let me quickly explain it. So Simon Says is a game where the teacher says, Simon says, do something, and the students have to do it. So if Simon says, point to the ceiling, all the students would point to the ceiling. And then when the teacher says, point to the ceiling without Simon Says before it, if you do that, then you're out. Okay, you lose. Okay, so I'm sure you've come across this before in one way or another. I wonder if Jacques is your version of that in French. Maybe it is. Thank you, Bertrand, for sharing that. So you could do that with the same vocabulary that we had on the previous slide. So we could do that with play football, play tennis. The students could pretend to play football, could pretend to play tennis. Maybe they could do this online. You could, if they've got their cameras on, you can see that they're pretending to play football, play tennis, ride a horse, run, ride a bike, etc. Okay, so Simon says play football. Simon says ride a horse. Simon says go rollerblading, run. And then the students who are running, you say, no, don't do that. Don't do that. You're not meant to, because Simon didn't say it. You know the game. I know that you're sitting at home right now looking at me going, come on, Gareth, we know that game. Why are you telling us this? Right. I've got a little person to introduce you to. So this is Simon, that you can see on the left there. But now I'm going to introduce you to Lucy. Okay, so this is Lucy. And Lucy is very lazy. So everything Lucy does, it's very slow and very lethargic. So when I play Simon Says with my students, I have Simon Says and Lucy Says. So simple Simon says play football, students play football. Simple lazy Lucy says play football, the students have to play football but in a lazy way. Oh, I can't be bothered. Okay, and so we add an extra thing in there to make the students have to think a little bit more, to make it a little bit more fun. And then I have a new friend for us. So next we have where are we? We have Fast Fiona. You can see Fiona's on the skateboard there. Everything she does is really fast. So again, I say, Simon says, ride a horse, you ride a horse. Lazy Lucy says, go rollerblading. So you, I don't want to go rollerblading. And then Fast Fiona says, run. So until you run very fast. And so they've not only got to listen for the person, but they've also got to listen for the way that they're doing it as well. And then my final one, I find my final one is, Bertrand's on fire there. Well done, Bertrand. Very quick. Done it. Well done. Tamlin, well done. Well done. Well done. A little glimpse of Norman there. My final one is opposite Ollie. And so everything you say with opposite Ollie, the students have to do the opposite of. So for example, maybe it wouldn't work with the vocabulary that we're talking about there, but maybe if we were doing things like, stand up, sit down, go to the door, go to the window, point to the ceiling, point to the floor, those kind of things. And the students would do the opposite of those activities. And so you have 4 different games of Simon Says in one. Okay, so it just takes something that we've been doing for years and just expands it a little bit, makes it a little bit different, and makes it a little bit more fun. And as I say, if you've got the students with their cameras on and you're doing this online, then you could be watching the students do it. Something I tend to do, and you can choose if to do this or not. You don't have to. But something I tend to do is not eliminate students when they get something wrong. Okay, so if they've got, I've played in the past where when a student gets something wrong, they sit down and they're out of the game. But I think, well, actually, that student who's got something wrong is probably more inclined to need the practice. So why not just give them, why not say, well, let's see who can make the fewest mistakes, and then everybody keeps playing the game all the way through, rather than sitting down and then the last one standing is the winner. We'll have the winner as the person who makes the fewest mistakes during the thing, if we need a winner at all. But I want my students all to be participating throughout the throughout the thing. Eliminate students sounds like exterminate. Yeah, I don't want to exterminate my students. You know what I mean. Elimination in a sporting sense or a competition sense, not in a nasty sense. Okay, so I hope you think that might be something that you can do in your classroom. Might be good fun. Okay, so that's our day. All right, so again, using pictures. I love using pictures in the classroom with all ages, whether I'm teaching 30-year-olds or 3-year-olds. Pictures are something that we can use all the time. Something we can do with pictures is sort of memory games with pictures. And so I'm going to show you this picture for a couple of moments. Okay. Just have a look at it, have a think about it, think about what's happening in that picture. Okay. And I'm now going to show you some questions, and I'm going to ask you to answer those questions. Now, with the questions, when I do this in a class, I might have the students, they're true or false questions. So in class, I might have the students have a piece of paper, working groups. They each have a piece of paper or a mini whiteboard or a piece of card. And on one side, they'd have the word true. And on one side, they'd have the word false. And so when I ask the true or false questions, they quickly decide if it's true or false and then hold up what they think is the right answer. Okay, so that might be a way I would do this in class. Online, it's not as easy to do that because they're not working. They could do that. They could have a piece of paper each with true or false on either side, and they could hold up if it's true or false. Okay. They could stand up or sit down for true or false, which again you could do in class. They could, something I like doing is they scratch their nose or scratch their chin. So their nose is true, their chin is false. So they decide which one is which. We haven't got the capacity for me to see you here. Okay, so I'm going to ask you to do something else. I'm going to ask you to type your answers in the chat box. Okay. But I don't want you to send the answers until I've asked all 6 questions. Okay, so type 1, false or true, 2, false or true, but don't send it until I say send. Okay, so don't just do it for number 1. Wait until I've done all 6 questions. Okay, and then so if you're ready, question 1 is: there are 3 kids in the picture. True or false? Okay, true or false. Don't say yet. Don't press return yet. Just type it and then wait for the next one. Okay, that's okay. Christelle, isn't that nice? Christelle. Okay. Okay. So next question. The leaves in the picture are green. The leaves are green. True or false? Again, don't press send yet. If you have, it doesn't matter. You might be wrong anyway. Next one. 2 children are wearing stripes. 2 children are wearing stripes. Stripes across their things. Okay. Number 4 then is they are playing. Oh, sorry, I've got number 4 and number 5. I've just done something on my screen which has messed it up. Sorry. Number 4 is 1 child is wearing yellow. Number 5 is that they're playing hide and seek. And then number 6 is the girl in white is called Jenny. Okay. Okay, so now you can press return. So let's see your answers for those. Oh, lovely. Thank you. Oh, gosh, they're coming a bit fast. I hope you don't have 70 participants when you're doing this, because if you do, you have a lot of answers all at the same time. So I can see your answers. Okay, brilliant. Lovely. That means you're, at least I now know you're listening to me. Okay, so I bet you want to know the answers, don't you? So the answer is false, false, true, false, true. And the last one is a silly question. We don't know the answer to that. So it's a question mark. But if you've decided it's false, if you've decided it's true, then you're both right for that one. Okay. Okay, so what am I doing? Well, I'm showing a picture. The students can see the picture. They're thinking about the picture. They're examining the picture. They're interacting with the picture. I'm asking the questions and they're writing them down, so they're thinking about it. The questions go from very factual ones to they might be playing hide and seek, they might be doing something else. So it's harder to answer the last 2 questions, true or false. We don't know for sure, but the students can give an answer and then we can check why they've given that answer. We can discuss what they think they've done. Okay, so hopefully that's just a nice way of doing a kind of memory game. As I say, in class, I would have the answers straight away. But online, I think this kind of thing works where the students type the answers and then send it all at the same time. So we can use the chat box to our advantage there. Okay. All right, let's move on to the next one. Okay, I'm going to get you to do some maths now. How are you? I mean, we're all English teachers, but how are we with maths? Okay, so Liam says How are we with maths? Okay, so this is just a nice way. Again, if you're using those flashcards, like those magic eyes that I used earlier, you could have flashcards on the board with a number above them. Or if you've got a course book and you've got pictures that are numbered, then this works perfectly with that as well. Okay, so it's getting students to think about their English, but also getting them to think about their maths as well. So question number one, we're going to do some plus. So 2 plus 2 is 4. We're going to do some minus. 2 minus 2 is 0. And we're going to do some multiplication. So 2 times 3 is 6. Okay, so very simple sums. I'm sure you're all good at it. So question number one is, what is zebra plus giraffe? What is zebra plus giraffe? Put the answer in the box. So far, you are all wrong. So far, you are all... who's that? Evelyn has it right. Sabine has it right. So zebra plus giraffe, we can see zebra is 2, giraffe is 3. So that makes 5, and 5 is lion. So well done to those of you who said lion. That's the right answer. Okay, so what is monkey plus hippopotamus? What is monkey plus hippopotamus? Yeah, no, Tamlin, that's not 10. Natalia, not 10. Yeah, whale is the right answer. Okay, so what is whale minus shark? What's whale minus shark? Somebody's put 1. They went through too quickly for me. Elephant is the right answer. Yeah. Okay, and so what is zebra? What is zebra times monkey? Zebra multiplied by monkey. Let's see if we can get an answer for that. Zebra times monkey. Whale plus zebra. Yes, very good. You guys are cleverer than me. Christine passed. Some of you said 12, which is, of course, is right. But you could do it. You could express one as the other. 2 monkeys. Yes, very good. Excellent. Penguin plus hippo. Excellent. All right, great. Okay, so I think we've got the idea with that. Thank you very much for taking part and having some fun with me with that. I do that with my students in exactly the same way. And so I don't tell them the rules. I do it. They get it wrong first time. I tell them they get it wrong. They have to think about it, and then somebody gets it right, and then they all copy, and then they keep going. And then the next time I do it on another page with more numbers and pictures, I do it again. Maybe I get other students to come and to be the teacher and to call out different things, etc. Okay, so it's making students think. It's making them think about their numbers. It's making them think about the language. It's making them think about the language in a slightly different way. Hopefully, it becomes more memorable by thinking about it like that. Okay. I've forgotten to take a drink. And Norman pops out there. So let's see what's next. Let's say goodbye to Norman. Again, we can see Norman in here. So this is an idea that I spoke to a couple of my friends who are teaching quite a lot online, more online than I am. I at the moment I'm writing materials for online, but I'm not doing that much teaching. And I was teaching online in the summer. I was talking to them about teaching online, and they said one of the benefits of teaching online is that you can get students to look around them and to make things personal. And so I thought if we were doing a lesson like this that we've got in front of us, with the bananas and the apples and the strawberries and the tomatoes and the carrots and the lettuce, we're talking about food. We're talking about healthy food. Then maybe something you could do is to say, okay, we're online, by the way, at this point. So this isn't something that would work in the classroom, really. I mean, you could ask them to do this for the next lesson, but certainly this is something that works online. You can say to the students, go away and find something healthy in your fridge, or find something that you like eating in your cupboard. Bring it back to the sorry, somebody's just knocked my door. That's why I'm just a little bit out of sync there. Bring it back to the camera, and then you turn on the students' cameras, or they turn on the cameras, and they show what they've brought. I've got a nice healthy glass of water. It's fresh and it's cold and it's nice and it's wet, etc. And then they can talk about what they've brought. Maybe you can discuss if it's healthy or not, etc. Okay, so that's something you could do with online to make it more personal. So if you're doing a lesson on classroom equipment, then they could go away and they could try to find something that's interesting for them, so like a computer mouse, etc., or a pen. If you're doing something on electronics, then they could go away and try and find something that they like in their electronics, like their flashy headphones, etc., and they could talk about something that's personal to them. So little show and tell, scavenger hunt type things, where they're finding something in their house to show to the camera, I think can be quite a nice idea. Okay, so this next one, we're doing time-wise. Oh, I'm a bit fast. Never mind. This next one is called Stop Game. So when I do a reading with the students, or a listening, possibly, I might then take the text away and read it to them with their books closed. So they've read it. We've done the activity. We've done the activity. We've discussed everything, and then I tell the students to close their books. Okay, and then I read the article to them again, but I make mistakes. So I make mistakes on purpose. So I'll say, when I make a mistake, I ask them to say stop. So again, if you're in class, you could maybe use the reactions. I think somewhere you have I can't see it on mine now. You have a raise hand, okay? So online, you could ask them to raise their hand when you make a mistake, and you could then see who's raised their hand, and you could ask them to correct the mistake. Or if they've got their mics on, they could just shout out stop. You can see who has shouted out stop. And oh, whoops, I've gone to the wrong page there. You can see who shouted out stop, and you could ask them to correct you. And so we'll try it. All you have to do is say the word stop in the chat box, okay? I'm going to make a mistake on purpose. You shout stop, and then I'll ask somebody to correct me, or you can type the correction as well, okay? So just say stop, and then I'll stop, and you can then write what the correction are, okay? In Australia, there are lots of amazing animals. There are red kangaroos. They live in a... Stop? Where did I make a mistake? What did I say? I didn't mean to make a mistake then. Did I say these instead of there? Ah, I did. That was an accident. I didn't mean to make a mistake then. Let's try again. These are red kangaroos. They live in a group in grasslands and the desert. They are short, and they've got short... Oh, what? Not short? What have I done wrong? Oh, they're tall. Oh, okay. All right. Okay. So as you can see, we can go through the paragraph, or more than one paragraph, say these, the students correct us as they can. And different students at different times, you can get them to say stop and put their hand up. Online, as I say, you could use the raise hand or one of the other reactions that they can use, etc. So in this chat box, I'd like just see how I'm doing so far. Okay, so far, do you like these activities? So if you like them, can you put a smiley face, right? And if you don't like them, you can put a sad face. And if you think, oh, they're okay, you can put a somewhere in the middle face. Okay. Oh, I think that's a laughter. Oh, one smiley face, just written smiley face. I like that. Or thumbs up. I wonder what that means. Okay. A couple of crying. You found the emotions. Somebody's just said sad that because their students are so old. Some of these will work with older students, but certainly what I'm going to do in the second half um, of the session in the second hour are going to be for more older students. But I think some of these you could play around with and adapt a little bit of these activities and to play them with older ones as well. The reason I've done that is because the great thing about teaching online, and teaching online isn't perfect, but there are some things that you can do that you can't do offline. And so you can do an activity with the students and say, how did you feel about that? Or you can ask them, you can maybe do something and how did you get on? How did you feel you did? Give me a smiley face that tells me how you feel about how you feel you did in that activity. And that can be something that we can do and get instant feedback from our students. And so it's something just to bear in mind there. Okay. So imagine that we're doing a lesson on jobs. Okay, and the jobs I'm going to teach you are the ones at the bottom of the page there. Okay. Now, this is certainly something that would work with older students, this next activity. Okay, so imagine that we've done this lesson. Imagine this lesson was last week. Okay, we've had the chant, we've had the pictures, we've matched the pictures to the people, we've done some drilling, we've maybe we've played Simon Says, where they have to act out the different people. We've done that. Okay, and then we come back to class the next lesson, and I want to see if my students can remember what we did in the previous lesson. Okay, so my task for you, again, you can do this, you can write it in the chat box, but don't send it until I say send. Okay, or you can just write this on a piece of paper. Okay, my task for you is I'll give you 30 seconds, okay? I'll give you 30 seconds, and I want you to write down as many jobs as you can. They don't have to be the jobs that were just on the screen. They can be any jobs you want, okay? So any jobs that you can think of in English, write them down on a piece of paper. You've got 30 seconds to think of that list, okay? To come up with the list, okay? First lady is one if you want it to be. That can be a job. Yeah, Bertrand, that's a... let's hope in time there'll be a first gentleman as well, but just write down on a piece of paper. You don't have to put it in the chat box. You can just do this privately. You don't have to put it in the chat box. You can if you want to, but you don't have to at all. You can just do it on a piece of paper. 30 seconds, write down your list of jobs, as many as you want, as many as you can. Can be the ones from that page, doesn't have to be. Okay, so that was a bit more than 30 seconds. So now you can either press send if you want to, or you can, oh yeah, getting loads of jobs in here now. So obviously you've probably done this with students yourself. You've got them to work in groups, you've got them to work in pairs, you've got them to brainstorm. Maybe you do it before you teach the vocabulary to see what they already know. Maybe you do it after you've taught the vocabulary to review what they've done. What I often find difficult is once I've got say I've got a group of 15 in my class, say I've got 20 in my class, I've got 5 groups of 4, I've got them to write their lists in groups, and then I've got to try to get feedback from all of the different groups, and I find that a little bit difficult to do at times. And so I want to make it competitive. I want to make it different. So what I do is this: I put a list of jobs up on the board myself. Okay, there are my list of jobs, and I say give yourself marks. Okay, so hopefully you can see now that blue is worth 1. So if you've written down the word cook in your list, you get 1 point. Red, so doctor, football player, is worth 2. Okay, orange is worth 3. If it's not there, sorry, blue is 1, red is 2, purple, sorry, is 3. Purple is 3, so if you've written waiter, then that's 3. Orange is 5, and if you've written a job that isn't in my list, then you score 4 points. Okay, so have a look at your list and give yourselves marks now, and see how many points you have scored. So some people might score 50, some people might score 90, some people might score 3. Okay, so have a look, see if you can find your list if you typed it in the box, and then write down what your score is. See if you can add up your score, and see what you've got. Okay. Gosh, somebody's got pediatrician, Stella, Marianne. You've done a very good job there. You're going to score a lot of points. Yeah. Okay, you don't need to add up your points. It's okay. You don't need to go through it. If you have done and you want to say how many points you've got in the chat box, feel free to. If you want to just make up a number and say that's how many points you've got, feel free to as well. And I'm not going to count. Well done. Oh, 50, Kulka. 47, well done. 40, well done. Okay. If you imagine your students doing this, they probably won't come up with too many that are different than we've taught. Maybe the stronger ones will come up with a few that are there. Maybe the weaker ones will come up with very solid ones. What I think is that what I've found happen with this is that, say, the weaker group only come up with 6 jobs, but maybe all of their jobs are in purple or orange, and so they score more points. Whereas the stronger ones maybe have forgotten a couple of the purple ones, but have come up with all the others, and so they score the same number of points. And so it's just a way of making sure everybody feels involved. You don't just get points for getting it right. You get points for just because I've decided you get a different amount of points. It's just purely, I mean, obviously I've put 5 points for teacher there because that's the most important, but there's no other reason why. Okay, so it's just a way of making sure people who aren't maybe as good could possibly win the game, and they can feel good about themselves. Okay, so it's just a nice way of doing that. You could say that, you could put fewer points for ones that aren't on my list, which means that the clever students can have 1 point for all the ones that aren't on the list, but the stronger students can have more points for the ones that they've remembered from what we've taught, just to give them, again, a little bit more confidence. And that can lead you then to quite a nice memory game. So I talked about memory games before. So if I then have that and I then take those away, I can ask students to not only try and remember the 10 words that were on my screen, but also try to remember them in exactly the same place as as that they were on the screen. And so what was in the bottom, in the middle, what was top middle, what was, and so I can, again, it's going back to that kind of magic eye idea. We're taking away the words and asking them to try to remember where things were. And again, if you've got a student that's got quite a good photographic memory, but isn't that good at English, then maybe they do well at that activity, but they don't do as well at sort of other activities in the class. So it's just appealing to different students as we go through. Okay, so we're getting there, I can see some questions have come in, so I will try and answer some of those questions in the Q&A box above as well. Okay, so again, a game that you've probably all played in the past, the game of noughts and crosses. You know the idea that I'm going to try and annotate on my screen now, which I've never done before. So let's see if this works. You know that you get the cross, sorry, the nought or the cross. Tic-tac-toe is called in American English, noughts and crosses in British English. Let's see if I can get rid of those. And so the idea, do you recognize these words? Do you know where these words are from? Do you recognize these words? Just type in the chat box if you think you know where those words are from. They're English words. Yes, thank you, Bertrand. Kulka, very simply, no, I don't. I don't recognize those words. Ah, the text on the Australian animals. Yes, well done. Not from my first slide, no, but from the animal page. Yeah, the text on the animals. Okay, so these words all came out of that text. So again, if I want to review the text, maybe in the next lesson, I could draw something like this, have it on the board, and we could play as a class. Or I could draw something like this on the board and ask students, if I'm in class, rather than online, then the students could draw this themselves and then play in pairs or in groups of 3 or 4. And the idea is maybe 2 twos against each other. The idea is that the students, to win a nought or a cross, they have to be able to say what the words mean, or put the words in the sentence, or say what the words, how the words were used in the text, any of those. Okay, so you can encourage students to try to review, remember what was in the text. So for example, jump, tail, the kangaroos had a long tail, and so the students can come up with those, and then they win the cross or the nought. Okay, and what you could do is just have a list of words from the text on the board, and the students have to make their own grid and write their own words in it. Okay, so you could have 20 words on the board, and they have to choose 9, and then they play each other, or they make a grid for the other group. Yeah, so, or maybe if you've done 2 readings in the last month, you could get one student to make a grid, one group to make a grid from one reading, one group to make a grid from the other reading, and then they swap over. Okay, so there's ways that they could become more sort of take control of this for themselves. Okay, could be a team game insofar as you could do this as a class. Somebody's just written team game there. You could do this as a class. You could have group A, group B, and somebody from group A has to give you an answer to get the nought. If they're in groups of 4, you could maybe have 2 against 2, and then they have to decide on the sentence together. So it is up to you how you do it, but it's flexible enough to be done in different ways. Okay, so we're getting there. There is a sort of review at the end of all of these games. So if you're thinking, oh wow, there's a lot there, then yeah. Just bear with me a second. My computer seems to have frozen. Oh, it's because I've got that open, I think. Can people still hear me? Am I still there?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry. My computer seems to have frozen for a moment, so I'm online, but I can't change my slide.
You can't change your slide.
No.
No one's ever experienced technical difficulties while doing anything online before, so I'm sure they will be very indulgent with
and
you.
the first. Okay,
They can hear
you can
you.
still hear us. Okay, so let's see if I can continue without for a moment. So my next slide, I know for certain, was a picture of Norman, because I wanted to talk to you about why I was doing that Norman thing throughout the lesson. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to try that in a minute, Liam. I'm going to see what I can do. Okay, so my next slide was a picture of Norman, and I wanted to talk to you about why I was doing that Norman thing. I think certainly teaching in class, I sometimes have a key word that I tell the students to try to listen out for. I sometimes have a picture that will come up a few times on PowerPoint, or I know it's going to be in the course book, etc. When I'm telling stories, I have maybe I'll have a prop that I will pick up every now and again. The students have to notice when I picked it up, etc. I think online, if we've got a slideshow when we're teaching online, to have something that happens, even if it's just something that appears in the screen, like a pen or a puppet or something, that the students notice and see, then the students are paying attention. I think it's very difficult, and I'd like to thank you all for paying attention for the last hour with me here, or the last 50 minutes, because it is difficult to stare at a screen for an hour and to stay engaged. And so if I've got that kind of thing where I've got something popping up that's interesting and the students are looking for it, and then if they miss it, they're a bit upset. If they get it, then and they're the first to get it, then they've done it. Then there's I think I've made it work. Yes, I have. Okay, good. Then the students are engaged. They're looking for something. They're engaged in the lesson. Okay, so that's what I'm hoping to do with that kind of thing that comes up. Yes, we know Norman's there now. He's right in the middle. We don't have to say he's there now. So, okay, so just a quick review. And again, just to talk about this, at the start of a lesson, I'll put a list of words on the board. At the end of the lesson, I'll ask students if they can remember how we used them. And so it might be new vocabulary that I want them to learn during the lesson, or it might be old vocabulary that is going to come up in the new lesson anyway, but I want them to notice it. So just choose maybe 2 of these, and in the chat box, just say how I used it or why I used it in this talk. So how did I use those words? How did I what did I do with them? Why did I say the word Norman? Why did I say the word Angry Birds? Just choose 2 and type it into the chat box. Yes, so Lazy Lucy. Yeah. You can't remember hearing scavenger. Okay, I'll go back to that one. Yeah, food from the fridge. So yeah, that's what the scavenger was. Scavenger hunt, getting the students to go off and find something and then do a show and tell. Yeah. Yes, zebra plus giraffe. Yeah, brilliant. Mark, they were actually Czech students as well. So they were Czech students, not Croatian students. I hope I said, yeah, I think I said. It doesn't matter that you're wrong. You've remembered the ideas behind it. And so, as I said, well done. Thank you, by the way. You've done a brilliant job at that. And so that's, again, what I might do in the classroom. I would choose some words, put them on the board at the beginning, and then I just think it's a really nice way to round up what we've done in the class by asking a few of the students to see if they can remember why I used the words lazy, why I've used the word scavenger, why I've used the word cross, etc. Okay, and then if the students have forgotten, like somebody said they couldn't remember scavenger, then I can go back and we can just look at that again and what it meant when we used it. And so it's just a nice way, I think, to review the class. It's simple, it's easy, it doesn't take any preparation. You'll notice the word lazy, a lot of you remembered Lazy Lucy, but I also said that I was a lazy teacher insofar as if you think about a lot of these activities, none of them have really taken too much planning and too much preparation. So that word lazy was referring to me as well. They're things that I can add on to my course book easily, or I can take from my course book. I think games can be fun. I think fun can be learning. A lot of these ideas I've taken from the teacher's book of Bright Ideas. So you can see this is a little screenshot from the teacher's book. So things, I don't know if I've got the slow reveal. No. Oh, noughts and crosses, that one's there, yeah. Repeat if true, well, I've turned that round, I've made it, repeat if it's false, etc. Those kind of things are there. I'm just about done, but there's a couple of questions in the chat box, so I'll just have a look at those. Julie's asked if there's an app to create games like the Magic Eyes so you can project the pictures. I used PowerPoint for that and just made a shape to go over the picture and then use the animation. I've also made games like that using the sort of interactive whiteboard software that you get with interactive whiteboards. And Julie's also asked about the memory game, about it being, it's not really about getting students to talk. No, it's exactly that. It's about showing students have understood. You could use the same kind of activity with the with a reading or a listening, etc. A lot of these things were teacher led, but you could then turn them into student led things as well. So you could ask them to then find a picture in the course book where they're working in small groups. They find a picture, they close the picture, and they try to remember what was in the picture. And so then they're beginning to talk. Maybe one of them could do the true or false questions, etc. So that could be that. Bertrand, you've asked about the CELTA. I don't really know. I'm not particularly au fait with that, I'm afraid, these days. So yeah, so sorry about that. I think I've answered all of those questions. So I will stop talking for a little while. Oh, there was Norman again, just at the end there. Just popping his head in. I'll take a little break now. I'll come back with the next session in a little while. Hopefully, most of you can stay. I can see that some of you can't because you're teaching. So thank you very much for those of you who can't stay. Hopefully you can watch a recording of this. Those of you who are staying, I'll see you in about 10-15 minutes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Gareth. Thank you. Thank you all for your participation. I'm just going to take a little breaky poo. So this is technically break time for yourselves as well. If you'd like to pop away to get a coffee, or if you have any questions for me, I'm happy to stick around as well. Let me just clean this up here. Where can you get the books? Funny you should ask. From us or from a local bookshop, as we work directly with schools and with bookshops across the country. Depending on if you want to, I'll obviously get in touch with you afterwards. I can either indicate the place for you to buy that locally, or you can buy from us. You're welcome. I thought I'd take this time. Please feel free to ask questions if you have them. But since I have you, I thought I'd take this time to go through quickly, basically the OUP offering for. Yes, I can send you the link where you can order the books, and OUP have agreed to give you access to digital versions so you can try them out yourselves. So you'll be able to, by filling out the feedback form, receive versions that you can try out with your class. So I thought I'd take this time to go through quickly the OUP offering for primary and secondary. So first, primary here. Currently, for the preschool age, we have Jump In and Mouse and Me. Jump In is very similar in approach and visuals and things to a course that is still quite popular in France called Cookie and Friends. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of Cookie and Friends. It's absolutely adorable. I love it. Jump In is as well. Quite adorable. It's got lots of sort of very cute little animals. There are 3 levels, as there are with Mouse and Me. I suppose if I were supposed to differentiate them, Jump In is a little bit more sort of easygoing level. Mouse and Me is a little bit higher, slightly more ambitious level. They both come with access to an application, Lingo Kids application with OUP material specifically made for it. Moving into, so those are for maternelle, petite section, moyenne section, grande section. Il y a 3 niveaux. Afterwards, another course book which is quite popular in France as well is the Happy series. Happy House 1, Happy House 2, Happy Street 1, Happy Street 2, Happy Earth 1, and Happy Earth 2. These are used often from CP up to CM2. A newer course, which is very much in the same vein, is Learn With Us, which is going to be sort of about an hour and a half to 2 hours of lessons a week, which I understand might be more than what you have, but that's what it's aimed at. And it's sort of gives you enough material to fill out those hours if you don't have any, but it's not necessarily the most sort of ambitious method. So if you have other ambitions in mind, such as taking the Cambridge exams, for example, for young learners, you might want to go with something like Family and Friends and Bright Ideas. I say that all of these prepare for the Cambridge exams. There's just these 2 last ones, Family and Friends and Bright Ideas, which are a bit more ambitious from the beginning. Let me check out the questions here. So that is the primary offering. Have any of you heard of, are any of you using Family and Friends? Or do you know about, oh, Happy Street, I have Learn English with, oh, you learn English with Happy Street, my goodness. What sort of materials are you using? Are any of you using any books at the moment? Bright Ideas, of course, is the new course that Gareth used examples from today. Hop in, okay. Oopsie. And like I said, you'll be getting access to samples of that with audio and video, the classroom presentation tool, so you'll be able to really evaluate the method as well. And it's perfect timing, as I assume a lot of you will be teaching online at the moment. Discover, hop in, okay. I thought I'd give you an idea of what you're going to get access to very quickly. So this is the Oxford Learners Bookshelf. This is where you'll need to open an account to be able to access the samples that I'm going to send you. So it'll look like this. You'll have a copy of Bright Ideas here. This is the class book. This is the activity book. And you'll be able to go in. Oops, I'll need to sign back in again. And have access to what we call the classroom presentation tool. And this is book on screen presentation of the entire course, workbook and class book. And so book on screen is exactly book on screen. You see exactly what the students would have in front of them in their books with direct access to the audio and to the video. There are games built in for interactivity as well. For example, I won't do it, but to give you an idea. Too many things on my screen. If there's any audio or when there is audio, you click on the bar and the audio bar comes up. You can slow it down, you can speed it up. There's Norman, you'll remember. I believe we looked at this page, perhaps. So that's just one of the levels, and then you'll see as well, you're getting the activity book as well, and that looks like this. And these are quite complete activity books. They're in color, which is quite different from other activity books. So again, this is the activity books what the students will have access to. The samples that you're getting, they'll be for 3 months access. Do you have any questions about that while I've got it up? Is there a minimum number of books to buy with each order? No, no minimum number. How long will I have access? Thank you, awesome. I got a link for this webinar via a friend. How can I get the reminder links for the other webinars? Do I need to register somewhere officially? Well, you would have needed to, but there aren't any webinars anymore. You can write to me here. You can write to that email address and I can get you the feedback form so you have access to everything. Any other questions about that? Individual access code, yes. Individual access code. This is a personal site, so it is a personal, it's personal access, basically. Each person opens their account and they have access to the books that have either, in this case, been given to you as samples or that you've purchased or gotten a code from somewhere. So one code, one access, one person. Trying to get two questions here. I teach a class with 14 kids spread out between CU1, CM2, which can present challenge in buying materials. So I would be able to, for example, just by yes, of course you can. Every element is sold separately, so you can sort of mix and match. I would, while starting out with the new method, I would urge you to it's complicated because obviously we want to match the levels, but the problem, depending on how many hours they've already, or how much they've already done English, it could be that a level 2 would actually fit quite well, excuse me, for 8 to 10-year-olds or whatever, certainly level wise. We can deliver to the dom-tom, yes. So to get your codes, I'm going to send you at the end of this session, probably tomorrow, a link to a feedback form in which you will be able to request the samples. I thought it might be a good time to do this since you will be doing more things online at the moment. So that was the primary offering. We also have a secondary talk here coming up. Can you still see my, hold on, I need to share my screen again. Voilà. Voilà, so this is the secondary offering in the collège. You could go for either Project Explore or English Plus. English Plus is a little bit more challenging as well. It's a little bit more more of an ambitious level, thought-provoking and information-rich. Solutions is used more in high schools. Insight as well. Again, the difference between those. Insight is more more challenging, more aspirational. Solutions is very popular, and so is Insight in all of Europe, and it does sell here as well. Insight, I think, for me personally, I think Insight fits quite well the French program. If you look at the French high school program, as does Oxford Future Discovers. Excuse me, Oxford Discover Futures, which is a brand new course. They're very sort of goes along with the themes of the French back quite well. You know, insight and solutions, good. And you will be getting then codes for, you will have the choice to get codes for either for both Bright Ideas and this new one, Project Explore. Gareth is going to be using examples from this course, Project Explore. How are we on time? And lastly, because I still have time, you would like to have a paper version. We can discuss that. Are they suitable with the academic programs? Yes, they are used in French schools. Do they follow to the T? No, they don't. They follow the same themes and they follow the same ideas in the way that the French program is like, of course, yeah, Common European Framework, yes, very much so. Yes, everything is based on the Common European Framework, yeah. And they follow the Education Nationale in the way that, in terms of themes, in the terms of things that they're supposed to have seen, obviously, in the language needed. There's a slightly different approach, you know, than compared to the French methods way of doing it. But they are used, and you can use them. Better? I obviously think so, but not as much as in the French, no. The thinking is that, you know, you can get authentic anywhere. The point is to model the correct way of doing things and then to make sure that it's graded and at the right level. That's the point of having a leveled course book. And lastly, we'll have a look at the offering for the Cambridge exams for both primary and secondary. So for the young learners, starters, movers, and flyers, A1 to A2, you can use Family and Friends, which is used quite a bit already. It sells very well in France. Bright Ideas, also, this new course book prepares for the exams. These two are general English books as opposed to Get Ready for Starters and then the practice tests, or specifically sort of more supplementary, specific for preparing the exams. But the Family and Friends, the Bright Ideas, and any of the general English course books follow the language syllabus and prepare for them. It's just that these two include a bit more preparation alongside the general English language training. For the key for schools and preliminary for schools, you have trainers, exam trainers that have 4 print tests and access to an online test, as well as supplementary extra practice tests that you can get. These are all in a pack audio. You get the set of tests with the answers and the audio all in one pack. And for First for Schools, we have the trainer as well as Venture into First, which is a newer course book to prepare the First for Schools. Do they lack authenticity? The point isn't of these books is to give them the authenticity. The point is to teach them language and to give you a roadmap as a teacher. Now, nothing says a lot of the things in the books are Googleable. You can go find the real thing and use that. It is real information and it is real English, whether it be authentic or not. It's still language chunks and language that they absorb and that they learn. A course book to me is a roadmap for you to be able to do your lessons. And if nothing, you know, keeps you from, if you want to include a different text that's more authentic, to be able to do that, but to give you a syllabus and a logical progression to follow. And if you want to, if you feel like you need to to add more things to it, then obviously you can. But you're not starting from scratch. You've got a good solid base from which to work. Bye, Christelle. Gareth should be joining us again shortly. Are there any other questions? Ah, here he is. Hello. Goodbye. Thank you, Christelle. Anaïs, yes, you can request an attestation de présence, certificate of attendance. I'll be able to send that to you this week. Have I missed any questions here? Sure, if you need one, just pop me an email and I will, I can send you a certificate. Are you ready, Gareth?
Yeah. I'm here.
Okay, well, it's 14. Any ideas of albums in reading middle school? We can talk about that another time. We set up already for quite a few schools reading lists, and so we have already a decent selection. If you'd like to have a look at what other schools are doing that fit well with the age levels, so we can help. I'm not going to name any now, but it's certainly something I can help you with afterwards. Okay. I think I'm going to hand it over to Gareth now. So take it away. You can start sharing your screen.
Great. Thank you, Courtney. Hello, everybody. Thank you for those of you who have stayed around. Welcome to anybody who has joined us just for this session. You're all welcome. So this session is talking about global skills, and what I mean by global skills is wanting students to feel like they're more than just students, that they're little humans, part of society, wanting them to feel like they feel that they have a say in what is going on in the classroom, and also what making preparing them not just in English but also in this kind of skills that they might need when they leave school and go on into the world of work. So it's kind of just encouraging students to see English as a chance to experiment with things, etc. I'll talk about it more in a minute. I'd like you to, you don't have to type any answers into the chat box, but I'm going to give you some questions to start this session, and I'd just like you to think of some answers to these questions. They're a little bit strange, these questions, but they're well, you'll see. Okay, so you don't have to write anything. You can if you want to. It's up to you. You don't have to write anything. But these are the questions that I would like you to consider. I'd like you to think: what is the taste of the moon? What color is love? Why do snowflakes melt? How heavy is an elephant? And why is the poet sweeping the streets? Okay, so just take a moment, have a think about those questions. If you want to chat in the box, you can. If you want to just write down some ideas, you can. If you want to just think, you can. If you want to just wait for me to continue, you can as well. So wonder what the moon tastes like. Marshmallow. Sweet like honey. A scientific answer and a poetic answer. So cheesy. Yeah, okay. Yes, Sarah, there's no jobs for poets these days. How heavy is an elephant's dream depends on what the elephant is dreaming about. What beautiful answers. I've done this, I've asked these questions in many countries, actually, in Croatia, in Bulgaria, in Macedonia. I think these are some of the loveliest answers that I've had in all of those places. So thank you for these answers. I think they're beautiful. Let me tell you what these are about. These are abstract questions, and sometimes I do ask my students some abstract questions to get them thinking. Things like, what would you do if all of the cars in the world, what would be the problems or benefits of all the cars in the world being yellow? How many different uses can you think of for a mug like this? These kind of abstract questions get students thinking. But that's not really what I'm doing with this, these questions here. Although the answers have obviously been fantastic, so they might be worth exploring in more detail. But these all come from a poem, okay? And they come from a poem from a guy called Brian Patton, okay? And I think it's a lovely poem, so I'm going to take a minute to read it to you, if you don't mind, okay? So, when I was a child, I sat an exam. The test was so simple, there was no way I could fail. Question 1, describe the taste of the moon. It tastes like creation, I wrote. It has the flavor of starlight. Question 2, what color is love? Oh, sorry. Oh, what have I done? I've rather ruined that, haven't I? Question 2, what color is love? Love is the color of the water a man lost in the desert finds, I wrote. Why do snowflakes melt? I wrote they melt because they fall onto the warm tongue of God. There were other questions. They were as simple. I described the grief of Adam when he was expelled from Eden. I wrote down the exact weight of an elephant's dream. Yet today, many years later, for my living, I sweep the streets or clean out the toilets of the fat hotels. Why? Because I constantly failed my exams. Why? Well, let me set a test. How large is the child's imagination? And how shallow is the soul of the minister for exams? I love that poem. I think it's beautiful. I read it in a book that my mum got for Christmas a couple of years ago, and I thought I must use that when I'm doing my teacher training. I think it's lovely. I hope you enjoy it as well. You can find it. It's called The Minister of Exams. You can find it online. Brian Patton. You can find it and read it, use it, etc. Why do I think it speaks to me? Well, I think it tells us everything that's wrong about education. Education should be more than just exam results. Education isn't just about getting the students to jump through hoops. It should be about educating the whole child, encouraging that creativity, encouraging the differences that we get in classes, and not just trying to push everybody into the same sausage machine to come out as equal at the end of it. And, you know, for me, it should be Brian. Have I spelt it brain? Sorry if I've got a typo there. It should be Brian. Sorry, B-I-A-N. Yeah. For me, if I could rule the world, I'd take English off the curriculum. I wouldn't have exams in English. I would just have people learning English or learning any language. I'm trying to learn Welsh at the moment. I've learned Czech in the past, and the reason I want to do it is not because I want to pass exams, but because I want to be able to communicate, because I want to be able to have conversations, because I want to be able to be inspired by the literature of that country, or the poetry of that country, or the music of that country. So English shouldn't be something where we pass exams. It should be encouraged to be something, any language should be encouraged to be something where we communicate, where we do things in the language. it's not really an academic skill. But of course, we have to teach it as an exam skill. But I want to do more than just teach it as an exam skill. So that's really where this session starts and where this session is going. It's about trying to get students to see what they're doing as more than just learning for an exam or learning because they have to, because they're in the classroom. Okay. About a year ago, maybe a year and maybe 2 years ago, no, a year ago, it was at the beginning of the pandemic, this leaflet came out from Oxford University Press. You can go to the Oxford University Press website and download it and read it for yourselves. It's very interesting, and it talks about global skills. It talks about developing students for the wider world, the future, the job market, etc. And it talks about some of these as being some of the main skills that the students need to have: communication and collaboration. So being able to talk, being able to communicate and work together to solve problems. Creativity and critical thinking. So being able to come up with solutions to problems, to be able to think outside the box. Intercultural competencies and citizenship. I think that's something that British people need a little bit more of, maybe, where we're talking about, you know, understanding other people's cultures and being part of that. Emotional self-regulation and well-being, so looking after ourselves, looking after how we are, understanding how we tick, understanding that we're not going to be necessarily the best at something, but being as good as we can be at something. Being able to do stuff digitally and understanding what that means in terms of searching for things online and sniffing out fake news and real news, etc. And then I kind of added learner agency. If you go to and download that document from the OUP website, you'll also find one called Learner Agency, which is about giving students a little bit more responsibility in the classroom. So I kind of tagged that on to this talk as well. Okay, so just giving students a little bit of responsibility for their own learning, which I think is obviously a global skill. Having responsibility for your own outcomes is important, whether it's in the classroom or in a work environment. So I've got a quiz for you. Okay, so we could start off with a quiz. Same rules as apply as before. Type all your answers into the chat box, but don't press send until I say send. Okay, so I've got 5 questions. In what modern day country did the region of Mesopotamia begin? What is Wales's tallest mountain called? In what year was the first personal computer developed by IBM? How old was Jamie Oliver? Do you know Jamie Oliver, TV chef, when he made his first TV appearance? And how many types of penguins live in Antarctica? So type your answers, but don't press send yet. As I say, don't press send. Wait until I say send. Type your answers. That's all right. I mean, that's fine. I'm not telling you if you're right or wrong yet. Okay, I think number 2 is Snowden. Okay, you can press send now. You can send me your answers. Show me your answers. Okay. I should have said just have a guess if you don't know, really, shouldn't I? You know, have a guess. It doesn't matter if you're wrong. Just have a guess. Okay. Doesn't matter if you're wrong. Be brave. Ben Nevis. I think you're in the wrong country, Jen. I like that answer, Beatrice. Tall mountain. Yes, that's a good answer. Some great guesses coming in here. I like the 18 for the TV appearance. Is that? Or is that 18 for number 5? Oh, I wonder. 1950. That would be for the first personal computer, I suppose. Okay. There's some right answers. There's some wrong answers. I'm loving the wrong answers more than the right answers. Okay. And why? Because I want my students to make mistakes. I want my students to get wrong answers because that's how we learn. Well, I've talked about this already in the games section, that if we take a risk, get something wrong, then maybe we get it right later because we've learned from the mistake that we've made. Okay, I'm sure you're desperate to know the answer. So the answer to number one is Iraq. So a lot of you said Iraq. Well done. Congratulations for saying Iraq. That's great. Number two, the answer is Snowdon. A couple of you said Snowdon. A couple of you said Ben Nevis, which is Scotland. So that's a really good guess, but it's not the right answer. Snowdon's the right answer. Number three, the first personal computer. I didn't see that anybody got this. A lot of you said quite early, 1960, 1973. Oh, Francois, you said 1982. That is correct. Well done. But well done for the rest of you for guessing different years. It's not easy. Jamie Oliver was 23. And the number of penguins that live in Antarctica. Somebody, Jen, you said 18 for question 4, and the answer for question 5 is 18. So I'm saying that that's actually the answer for question 5. Okay. So just to recap, the answers are Iraq, Snowdonia, 1982, 23, and 18. Okay. But well done. If you've got them wrong, well done. Give yourself a pat on the back for having a go. Okay. That's better than not doing anything at all. Okay. If you got them right, well done. Give yourself a pat on the back. Give me, if you got 5 out of 5, give me a smiley face in the chat box. If you've got none out of 5, give me a sad face in the chat box. Okay, just let me know how you did in the chat. Otherwise, it's for some reason it's not scrolling through. You see, I'm in the right place. Yeah. Awesome. A couple of sad faces, a couple of confused faces, a couple of is that a tear there? Oh no, I didn't want to make people cry. Okay. So a couple of things to talk about with this quiz. One, as I was saying all the way through it, take a chance. Doesn't matter if you're right or wrong. I'd rather a good wrong answer than no answer at all. And that's what I always tell my students. Give me a good wrong answer. Try and justify your wrong answer with a reason. Tell me why. So I think that's important. Secondly, maybe I'll ask you these questions at the end and you'll probably get 5 out of 5. So quizzes like this can just be a learning experience. Even if you got all of them wrong first time, maybe you'll get all of them right next time. And that means you've learned. That means that you've grown. Thirdly, when I'm teaching my students, I want to teach them more than English. I want to teach them about the world in which they live in. I think all of these are interesting things. They're things that one of my students might be interested in mountains, one of them might be interested in computers, and one of them might be interested in Jamie Oliver. Some of them might be interested in penguins in Antarctica. And as Courtney has just said, it's making the English more relevant to them. And so where did I get these questions from? You might be looking at me thinking, well, these are really random. All of these questions are things that come up in the course books that we are. So I looked through Project Explore 2, and these are all questions that came up, all answers that, all information, sorry, that I got from just looking through that course book. So Sarah, I didn't know there were penguins in Antarctica, and now I've discovered that there's 18 different types of different penguin in Antarctica. So I've just learned something new in my life. Just me as a teacher, I've learned something new. And so my students are going to learn a whole lot more than just English when they're studying English with me. Because not because I know it, but because my course book does. It's not me being clever. So you can see, I think somewhere 18 types of penguin, right in the middle of number 3. Look, 18 types of penguin live there. So there we go. That's the type of penguin. That's where I got the answer from. Now, Leela, I'm gonna put the questions. Oh, I can show you the questions now if you want to take a photo of them, if you want to have a look at them. But they're also going to come up on the last slide, and I'll give you the answers as well again on the last slide. Okay, so they're there if you want to use them now. But yes, they will reappear. Okay. So the first thing that I want to do is teach my students more than just English. I want to teach them about the world because, and I think Courtney makes a really good point there, that I might have a student who hates English, but they like penguins. I might have a student who's okay with English, but loves computers. And so if I'm tapping into those interests in the classroom, then they're going to be more motivated to come in because they don't know what's coming next. They don't know what I'll be picking up and running with next, okay? The other thing that I want to do with my students is treat them like they already are coming into the class with knowledge. I don't want to treat them, especially once we're talking about, over 10s, young teens, that kind of age. They know stuff. Maybe they know more than we do about different things, about computers, about certainly things like TikTok and Instagram. My 11-year-old nephew is teaching me about those kind of things all the time. And so I don't want to just treat them like they know nothing and that I'm the teacher. I want them to feel like they have a chance to say something. And so, again, the course book that we're looking at here, the Project Explorer, has all of these ideas where it's saying to the students, you go first, you tell us what you know first, and then we'll look at what's in the course book, we'll look at what's in the lesson. So it's over to you first, you tell us. And so the students are beginning to think, the teacher thinks I'm clever. The teacher accepts that I'm not an equal, well, maybe an equal. I'm somebody who can contribute intelligently to the lesson. And if I'm doing something like that, then I want the students to, I don't want to just give the students the answers to things. So if you look at something that's going to become big here, before we start matching to the pictures, before we start matching to the definitions, I'm giving my students the words and I'm saying, which ones do you know? Which ones do you already know? And so they have to think about it. They have to discuss it. But I'm saying to them, I believe you know this already. Show me. But there's no problem in not knowing, but just show me what you know already. If you don't know, we're going to learn. And that's like the quiz that we just did. You didn't know the answers, but you've learned. And so it didn't matter that you got things wrong. And so I'm saying to the students, show me what you know. I could do that in a different way. The book does this with the words first. I could do it with the pictures first. I could ask the students not to look at the words and to look at those and to come up with what they think those are. And I might get some interesting answers. I might get some different answers from what is in the course book. And if that's the case, for example, number 1, they might think is some kind of UFO attack. Number 4, they might say gale, they might say hurricane, they might say what's the, not tornado, because that's number 5, but there's different types of storm, isn't there? So there's the hurricane one, which is in north, and then in the South Atlantic it's a different thing. Yeah, you know what I mean. My brain has gone mad. Cyclone, that's what I was looking for. Yeah, I lived in Japan during cyclones. You'd think I'd remember that. So the students might come up with words that aren't in the course book, and that's great. Somebody who's really into weather might be able to come up with different ideas that aren't there, and that's great because they can teach the other students in the classroom. And so we're treating the students like they know something. Now, in this activity, the students have to match the words to the definitions, okay? And I think teaching online is a perfect chance. It's difficult to maybe get the answers to these. And so what we can do as teachers is maybe display the answers. Now, I do this in class as well. And Courtney talked about the classroom presentation tools. And that means it's very easy to display the answers. So, for example, here, the students have done the activity, and then I'm going to let them check their own answers. I'm going to say to them, I want you to take responsibility, to check your own answers. I want you to decide if you're right or not. I want you to work out why you were wrong, why you weren't right. Try to correct yourself. No, not just that you were wrong, but try to work out why you were wrong. I think it's really important. I was talking to a colleague of mine about this the other day, and we were saying that it's really important that we're still part of this process, that the students tell us which ones they got wrong and why they got it wrong, or the students ask us questions about things. So we don't just say, you do it, I'm going off for a cup of tea. We say, you do it, but I'm here and I'm still involved. Sometimes, just to keep them on their toes, I'll do something like this. So you can see I've put in the answers here for these pictures. 7 are right, 2 are wrong. Can you tell me which ones I've got wrong? Can you tell me which ones I've got wrong? Can you correct me, in other words? Number 2? Oh, I think I've got number 2 right. Number 8. In fact, I've got 3 wrong. Oh no, I've got 3 wrong. See, so even that I'm telling you, and I've got things wrong. Have I? Yes, I have. I've got 3 wrong. Sorry. 8 and 4. Oh no. Sorry, you're right. It is 2 wrong. It is 8 and 4 that I got wrong. Yeah, I was thinking I had tsunami wrong, but it's in there twice. Yeah. So the idea is that I put up the answers, but I make a mistake myself. And then I ask the students to check. And then when they're checking, they're kind of checking a little bit more carefully. They're not just going, yes, I got it right. They're thinking, hang on a minute, I might have got something wrong. So yeah, you're right. I've got number 4. That isn't an avalanche. That should be a snowstorm, I guess. And then number 8 should be the avalanche. So that should go in there. Okay, number 6 is the tsunami. Number 2 is the hurricane. But the students might have different answers. And so I'm going to discuss what they've got. But I'm making them think. I'm asking them not just to go through the process of getting the right answer, but to actually to think about the right answer. To take, on the previous slide, we took responsibility for our own answers. On this slide, we're checking somebody else's answers, mine. Okay, so they're not checking each other's, they're checking mine, and they're seeing if I'm right or I'm wrong. Now, sometimes when I check the answers, the students have given me an answer that I wasn't expecting. Okay, and I think this is interesting. Let's look at this exercise, again, taken from Project Explore 2. Again, it's nice because it's the students showing what they know. So they work out what these are, and then they match them into categories. And so they're showing that they know what they're doing. Okay. I'm not telling them what categories they go in, they're putting them in themselves, they're thinking about something. But these are the answers that they've given me. Okay. So this is the answer from the course book that you can see on the right. Okay, but this is on the left, you can see the answer that my students have given me. So they've put under snacks, eggs and sandwich, but in the course book, they've put eggs and sandwiches under other. And so they may not be the answers I was expecting from my student, but has my student made a mistake? And so I think it's really important from the point of view of the teacher to, when a student makes a mistake, to ask why. Why have you put that there? Sandwich, I think, could be right as a snack. Yeah, I grabbed a quick sandwich in the morning. Yeah, but other people might see a sandwich as lunch, as something that's a bit more substantial. So they might not see it as a snack. They might see it as a meal, and so it might well go with other. Okay. Eggs, I'd have a harder time believing that eggs are snacks. I'd scratch my head a little bit, and I'd have to ask my student to tell me why. But for example, if this was a Japanese student, then maybe they're used to going into the convenience stores in Japan and buying an egg and just eating it as a snack in their break, and so eggs would be a snack. It would be a perfectly right answer. So I think this shows us that when we're dealing with students, when they get a wrong answer, they might have a wrong answer that we think is wrong, but is perfectly correct for them. And so We need to ask them why. We need to get them to justify why they've got it wrong. I'll give you an example. I was doing an activity where students were saying, they were saying as fast as something, as slow as something, you know, and one of my students said something like as fast as my brother. And we had to unpack that. That wasn't what I was expecting. I was expecting them to say something like as fast as a cheetah, but they said as fast as my brother, and we had to unpack it. We had to find out if his brother was fast, and it turned out that his brother was a sprinter and was very good at it. So it was the right answer. It wasn't what I was expecting. So it's unpacking what the students are doing. Somebody just said maybe his brother is a cheater, or maybe his brother just cheats. Beatrice said, you know, there used to be eggs at bars. There still are in the UK. You can still buy your pickled eggs in some pubs in Britain, and they would just be a snack. Yeah, exactly. So it's thinking about those things. So I talked about learner agency, and one of those things is giving students a choice. This is an activity from Project Explore 1, sorry. And the students have to write a recipe. Okay, so they have to decide on what recipe they would write. They have to make the list of ingredients, etc. Okay, and then they have to, presumably they work in pairs. They would work on this, and then they have to have a final product. The question that I would think about is, what would the final product be? Okay, so just use the chat box to tell me how the students could present this. One way they could do it is just on a piece of paper. They could write the recipe. Maybe they could draw a picture. Give me the piece of paper. I've got the piece of paper. They've done the activity. So it could just be on paper. How else do you think they could do this as an activity? Give me a few ideas in the chat box if you could. Okay, yeah. There's a blog post. They could record their recipe. Yeah. Any more ideas? They could create a menu. They could do it at home. Yeah. Could be a PowerPoint. It could be a challenge. They could actually make the recipe and bring in some food. They could make the video. They could make the recipe. They could put all the recipe books together. Love it. Some lovely ideas. Internet. Yeah. Yeah. Lovely. Okay. So with my students, what I want to do is give them a choice and say, how would you like to do this? And so whenever I'm trying to do something creative with the students, I want to try and give them a little bit of choice. And I want to say, I could give them choice with the previous activity as well. Do you want me to show you the answers, or do you want to go through the answers as a class? Do you want to check your own answers, or should we do it together, etc.? This, again, I'm giving them a choice how to present it. So I came up with a few ideas: a poster, a blog, a vlog, which is a video blog, a podcast, a step-by-step PowerPoint document. I think all of you have said these things and more. Maybe the class as a whole could decide to write a class recipe book, so it's all put together. So they all have to follow a certain, do it at a certain standard and follow a certain pattern together, which gives them that discipline of working as a group and not letting each other down. Any of these things helps the students to take responsibility for their own work and makes them think about what they're doing, and makes them think that I'm not just saying to them, I'm the boss, you do it my way. Okay, because the way I would do it would be different maybe from the way that a lot of you in here would do it, because we're all different people and we all have different styles of doing things. I'm very creative with writing. I am a writer. I'm very creative with writing, but I'm not particularly good with my hands. I'm not particularly good at making posters and things like that. So if a teacher says to me, you must make a poster, I feel a bit like, oh, that's going to be difficult for me. I'm not going to be able to showcase my talent in the way that I want to. But if a teacher says, make a vlog, a video of me presenting my recipe, whoa, I'm on fire. You know, I'm ready to go. So, asking the students to do it the way that they want to do it, I think, can be really motivating for the students. I noticed when Courtney was speaking earlier, people were talking about authenticity. There's many different types of authenticity. There's the authenticity that the language is exactly the same that a first language learner, first language user of the language would use. So if I was learning French, I would pick up Le Figaro and try to read it and probably find it too difficult. There's also authenticity in terms of topics, and in terms of making sure that the topics are real. That I think Courtney used the term Googleable, that you can actually find that these are real. If you search for Helen or Glenn, Helen Clements or Glenn James, if you do a Google search, you'll find that these stories are real, that they are genuine stories of things that have happened to real people. In the course book, they're slightly adapted because the students wouldn't be able to understand the Guardian newspaper article about these people, or a BBC website article about them, maybe. But so we need to adapt the language, but we've still got that sort of authenticity in terms of the things that have really happened. And I think that leads us to a lot of things that we can do in the classroom. Which I'll talk to a couple of things now. Okay. So we've got the story of these two people. The one about Helen is quite scary. She's in the Longley Safari Park, and her car catches fire, and there's smoke coming from her car, and she and her children are in the car, and she's got to think about what to do next. Does she get out of the car and face the lions, or does she stay in the car and face the fire? It's a real sort of Hobson's choice, isn't it? And really difficult to make that decision. So I like this because the students are discussing real life issues. They're discussing something that could happen to them, but they're discussing something that has happened to other people. So it's a real life thing. And so I love this activity. What do you think? What does she have to do? They have to make a decision, and they can play devil's advocate. They can argue for the other thing if they want to, etc. So I love this as an activity. I think it's a really nice activity as it is. But to follow it up, I might encourage the students to. So Group A has to write questions for Glenn James. Group B has to write questions for Helen Clements. Okay, and so part of that sort of critical thinking aspect, part of that creativity aspect of these global skills is being able to question, being able to think of the right questions at the right time, and when those questions are answerable, I think it's even more motivating. And so my follow-up to this activity would be to do exactly this, to get students into Group A, Group B. They write the questions, they think of what they would like to know, think of what the article hasn't told them, and that is encouraging them to think a bit more deeply, to go deeper into a topic. So how would I follow this up? What would I do with the questions? Well, I could just say, thank you for writing those questions. They're great because they've produced something and they've thought about something. Or I could ask Group B to pretend to be Glenn James and Group A to pretend to be Helen Clements, and then they ask each other the questions, and they've got to try and think how they would answer those questions as somebody else, which again is putting them into the shoes of other people, which is helping them to think about what it's like to be other people, what it's like to be in different situations. Or I could ask them with maybe slightly older students, slightly higher level students, slightly stronger students. I could get them to think about their questions, swap questions with the other group, and then the other group has to get online and try to find the answers to those questions, try to find, if it's possible, the answers, which means that they're developing those kind of digital literacy skills. They're looking for things, they're finding maybe 2 or 3 sources to check that their answers are right. They're finding out what they can't do, what they can't find the answers to as well, which is, I think, important as well. Sometimes we can't find the answers to everything. And so the students are, with the course book, they're thinking about things, they're asking, they're working out how they would behave in that situation. Afterwards, they're thinking, what more do I want to know about this situation? And then they're trying to find the answers to that, or they're putting themselves into other people's shoes. So there's a lot to think about there in terms of how the students are progressing, not just with their English, but with other skills as well. Okay, how are we doing? Yes. Right. So here I've got a list of words from Project Explore 2. These are just, so what I did, I went to the back of the book, I found Unit 2, I looked at the word list and I selected how many? 10 words, 9 words, 10 words from there. What I do with my students is put these, at the end of a unit, put 10 words up on the board and ask them to work with a partner and try to make sentences combining 2 of the words, okay? So they're just not just showing me that they know the word cold, but they're showing me that they know the word frightened. Or they're not just showing me they know the word thunderstorm, but phone signal, okay? And so they're making connections, all right? So for example, a student might come up with the word, there was a big thunderstorm and everybody lost their phone signal. Ah, that makes sense. That's good. Yeah. They might come up with a word, the criminal escaped from jail and now has his freedom or her freedom. Yeah. So, okay, that makes sense. Yeah. So the students are making those connections, which is hopefully doing a few things. Hopefully it's making the words more memorable for them, so they will remember them in the future. It's also showing me that they understand the words. So if the students say, we had a flat tire, so we didn't have a phone signal, then I'm thinking, hang on a minute, flat tire, phone signal aren't connected like that, but they could be connected in another way. So I can then try to ask them questions about that sentence and try to work out why they got it wrong. And it might be that they don't understand what phone signal means, or it might be that they don't understand what so means, and so I can unpack that. Okay. So yeah, I'm hoping also that the students are going to be quite creative with that. Maybe I could give them a group of words like this and ask them to come up with a little story rather than just sentences if my students are slightly higher level, but something I can do with my students. Something I think the book does really well is all the way through it has this learning to learn section of the course book. So it's just reminding students that learning itself is a process, and learning itself is something that we can get better at. We can get better at learning. We can learn how to learn vocabulary or to learn grammar, etc., etc. This is something the teachers I work with in Japan, I'm always talking to them about, that we can't expect students to be brilliant maybe at pair work straight away. We have to teach them how to work in pairs, what kind of roles to take, etc. So we're teaching the students all the time how to learn and how to develop their learning skills. Here's a question. This is 4 photographs taken by me. Just in the chat box. God, I haven't asked you to do anything in the chat box for a while. So I'll take a mouthful of water. And in the chat box, I'd like you to answer the 2 questions. What do these pictures have in common, and where do you think they were taken? Okay, see if you can just jot an answer in the chat box. You can be wrong, take a guess, be brave. Brave is one of my key words in the classroom. Be brave. Doesn't matter if you're wrong. Ah, in the USA, interesting. Japan, interesting. A couple of people thinking USA, a couple of people thinking Japan. They're all about consumer. Maybe they're taken in Japan and the USA. Something about food. Maybe taken in Wales. Something to do with shopping that they all have in common. Yeah, that could be it. They all have English words. So Ronnie Smith has hit the nail on the head. Everybody else, you had brilliant answers. Very creative, very interesting answers. Ronnie Smith has hit the nail on the head. These were all taken in Japan. Okay, so I was in Japan about a year and a half ago, less than that, about year and 3 months ago. I was in Japan, and I saw a lot of English around me. So we've got Black Friday, we've got Co-op Deli, we've got sorry, I've got my chat box over there. Enjoy eating. We've got Beard Papa. Not quite sure what Beard Papa means, but lots of English around. We've got, yes, warm bottoms, which is beautiful. Very typical Japanese English. The point is, by the way, I love that connection that they're all to do with commerce, because that's true, isn't it? And it's not the answer that I was thinking of, but you've come up with a better answer or a different answer that's not wrong. It's just not the one I was thinking of. The point I would make with these pictures is that all around us is often the language that we are wanting to study, and we don't notice it in the everyday life. So if we're learning how to learn, we have to notice that language around us. I told you that I'm trying to learn Welsh, and when I go out in the town that I'm living in now, there's quite a lot of Welsh around on road signs and things, and so I'm trying to notice the Welsh rather than look at the English. And so I try to notice the Welsh for supermarket, etc. And so something you could say to your students is that they could use their phones to take pictures of English that they notice in the community, whether it's around them in the shops, or maybe it's on TV, or it's in video games, it's in newspapers, and then they can come to class, whether it's online or face to face, and do a little show and tell. They can show the students the language that they've seen or learnt or heard, etc. You might want to vet that to make sure it's clean English that they're sharing with each other, but you might want to make that point that you want it to stay clean, but it's something that you can do. You can make a little video. They could make a little video themselves talking about the words that they could find, or they could create their own dictionary. So this learning to learn encourages students to write their own dictionary with the definitions, so they could write their own dictionary of the language that they are interested in. And so we're showing students that we're not just learning the course book. We're not just learning the words that I want to teach you, but I want you to learn the words that you want to learn as well. Okay. So we might, for example, I might, with that writing your own dictionary, I might go back to that text about the Helen Clements and say, okay, see if there's any words you want to find out what they mean in there, and put them in your dictionary. Any words that you like in there, any words you like the sound of or the taste of, etc. So yeah, something that you can do to encourage students to realize that English language, or any language, whether, I'm talking about English here, but if you're teaching Spanish as well as English, if you're teaching German, then this is the same thing. They can find the language being used in the real world. Okay. I think self-reflection is so important when we're learning, knowing how we're getting on, knowing what we're doing. And course books often have this kind of progress check, these kind of can-do statements. I can do this, I can do that, which is great. It encourages students to think, oh, I need to work harder, or I can do this. Yeah, it gives them a realization of where they are, which I think is really important. A part of that global skill of being self-aware, of looking after yourself, of being realistic with your own expectations. These are some of the benefits of self-reflection: increasing the awareness of the learning process, that learning how to learn. I'm going to come back to the second one. I'm going to do it last. Showing responsibility for their own learning, helping students be aware of their emotional well-being. If they're struggling with something, then maybe if we're asking them to reflect on their learning and they realize they're struggling with it, then maybe they can come to talk to us as a teacher and find out what's going on. Be aware of their role in the classroom. So if we ask them questions like, how did you feel you did as a group today? Did you let anyone down, etc.? I think that's important. Gives us feedback. If we look at how the students are dealing with their self-reflection, it gives us feedback. And then if I come back to that second one, I think I heard mention earlier when Courtney was speaking of the CEFR, the Framework of Reference for English, or for Languages, sorry. quite often we measure ourselves against criteria. We measure ourselves against where we should be. Maybe we measure ourselves against our friends. They're better than us, whatever. I think learning is about being better than you were yesterday, or being better than you were the day before yesterday, or the last week, or last month, or last year. And so self-reflection, I think, helps students to say, you know what, I'm better than I was last year. I'm better than I was last week, or I'm not, and I need to work harder. And so that's what I mean about being self-referential, to measure yourself against where you were. Last week, I was getting 5 out of 10 regularly. Now I'm getting 7 out of 10 regularly. I can be pleased with myself. So yeah, it's that kind of thing. So how do we get our students, apart from ticking boxes in the back of a course book, how do we get our students to reflect on what they're doing? Something that I tried a couple of years ago with a class of mine was to play around with certificates. I was lucky enough to get given a book of certificates like the one you can see there, but you don't need to use a book of certificates. You can make your own. They can just be scraps of paper. They don't have to be. So I started giving out certificates, and I'd give out certificates to students who got 10 out of 10, or could show me that they were better than last week, or behaved well, or worked well as a group, or just made me smile. You know, if one of my students tried really hard and made me smile, then I'd give them a certificate. So I was giving out these certificates. And then I thought to myself, why is it always me that gives the certificates? Why don't the students give themselves certificates? And so I did a thing in class where I had, I said, you're going to decide who gets a certificate for this lesson. So I gave out a piece of paper. They had to write on the piece of paper who deserved the certificate out of their classmates and why. And then I collected them in. And then in the next lesson, I gave the certificate for the previous lesson. And I'd do that once every 2 weeks or something. If the same person won a couple of times, I might sort of fix the results a little bit, so different people were getting the certificates, but it made them feel that they were buying into it, that they would then try to be, you know, rewarding somebody because I think they've done a good job is great. Rewarding somebody because their friends think they've done a good job is even better, I think. So that seemed to work. But then I thought to myself, what if they gave themselves a certificate? And so I gave them each a certificate in the class, and I said, fill it in and say, this certificate is awarded to you, write in your name, for performing well in, what have you done well in today's class? And then I went round, and if I agreed with them, I signed it. And then they could take that home to their parents to say, look, I got a certificate. And again, it made them think about what they were doing well in class. It may not be that they were the best at English, but maybe they were the most helpful. Maybe they'd helped somebody. Maybe they'd let somebody use their pen, etc., etc. Okay. And then I thought, well, what if they made a certificate for just one other person? So rather than voting, they give a certificate to their friend, the person they're sitting next to, for whatever reason they want to do. And again, they filled it in, they showed me, I signed it, and then they gave it to their peer. And so, yeah. I don't know if that's something that you would like to do. It's something that I did with one class once. It seemed to work. It was quite fun. It was quite motivating. But you might think, oh no, that's not something that can work for me. But it's something that I did and I thought was quite good fun. Okay. Something else I've done is just ask the students as they're leaving just to answer one question on a piece of paper and hand it in to me as they leave the class. Kind of exit tickets, if you like. So one of these questions might be the day's question. How did you do in today's class? What would you like to learn more about? What was the most useful? Who was the best student? So again, sort of looking around at other people. Something I haven't, oh yeah, how did you help others in today's class? You know, so what was your role in the classroom? What was your role as part of the group, not just as an individual? I think you could do this online. They could either text you in the private chat or in the group chat. They could do it, and so at the end of the lesson you ask that question, they send you the response, and then they leave. So could be something that you do, and that's just collecting information for yourself about your students. And if it's private, if they're just giving a piece of paper with just a comment on it, then maybe you get to see a little bit of honesty from the students. if you wanted to, they could do that in their own language. They could do that in French, and they could write their response in French to that. Because I think, again, if they do that in French, you're getting a better picture, a more fluent picture. If they're struggling with the English and they don't know how to say something, then that's a problem. So they could do that in French for you. Okay. Something I think I said at the beginning, or the beginning of these 2 hours, that I'm a storyteller, and I use quite a lot of stories in my teaching, and I do quite a lot of things to follow up stories, which again is getting students to think about things in a different way, getting students to think about things from the point of view of different characters, getting students to put themselves into people's shoes, or to imagine that they know those people. These picture stories appear all the way through Project Explore. So each each level has a different picture story, and then each unit sort of continues the story until you reach the end of it. And so I was just thinking, maybe if you're using graded readers, or if you're using fairy tales or something, these are the kind of activities you could use at the end of a story, or in the middle of a story in this case. So in this one, you've got 3 characters. You've got Ollie, Agatha, and Uncle Mick. Okay, so you've got the 3 characters there. And so you could ask the students to think about who would play each of these guys in a movie. And so they could plan a movie and think about actors that they like, and nominate an actor for each of those 3 characters. Yeah. Or, where am I? There. You could think that if it was around Christmas time or around Easter time, you could think, what kind of presents could you buy for these people? What would they like? What would they enjoy getting as a present? You know, would Uncle Mike like a new hat, or would he like a magnifying glass because he's a detective, or would he like a new mobile phone, etc.? What would they like as Christmas presents? And or you could think, who would you like to go on holiday with out of these 3? Who would be the most fun to go on a holiday? Who would be the most interesting to go on a holiday, etc.? And then my final one is, who is most likely to oversleep? So who's likely to most likely to ignore the alarm clock, to wake up late? Now, 4 different questions there. I wouldn't do all of them at once. You know, one lesson might be one, next lesson might be another one. So I just drop these in as it goes along. But they're all ways that we can, as I said at the beginning, you know, I'm a lazy teacher. I don't want to do too much planning, too much chopping up and cutting out and whatever. But a question like this that I write on the board after we've done a reading like this is very easy to do, and we'll get some discussion, some conversation, and we'll encourage the students to think in somebody else's shoes. Okay, we're just about at the end. You'll be pleased to know, maybe, because it's been 2 hours of listening to me. So thank you again for taking part. Just quite quickly, have a look at those questions. Do you remember the answers to them? You don't have to write the answers in the chat box. You can in the chat box, you can type how many you remember the answers to. Okay, yeah. I wonder what, Sarah, thanks for that. I wonder what the difference is from before, how many you knew before, you got right before, and how many you got right now. And so just showing you this just shows that getting things wrong is a learning process. And that's sort of been an underlying message all the way through these 2 hours, that students do get things wrong. It's not the end of the world. And if we're teaching them to think like that, and I talked about learning to fail in the first session, I talked about sort of these global skills of learning how to learn in the second session. If they see that they can make a guess, they can get something wildly wrong, they can maybe get something wrong in a good way, they can get something wrong, but they've had a go at it, and it doesn't matter, and they feel safe in that environment, then they're more likely to learn. And so these questions can be, these questions, I mean, wouldn't be used in the classroom. But what I'm trying to show you is the process that we go through as learning, and we get things wrong. We find out why we got it wrong, and then we get it right again. Okay. On the right there, a list of things that I've done in this session, or talked about in this session. Sorry, this session was much more me talking rather than sort of interactive, so apologies for that. But I hope you've got a lot out of it and enjoyed it. You can see that these are the kind of can-do statements for being a global, for having global skills, you know? And hopefully these match to the other side. So the certificates help us think about our emotional well-being, our self-regulation. Also help us to think how we fit into the classroom, so citizenship. Asking the students to use the stories, are thinking about the creativity and the collaboration. They can write those ideas together. Looking at English around us shows us how to learn the language, etc. Okay. So thank you very much for taking part today. Thank you very much for listening. I'll just check if there's any questions in the topic. Oh, so Andrea has said with the exit tickets, the last question is who's the best student? Just for me, that sort of gets the students to see how they fit into the classroom, and how I might not notice that one of the students is helping all the other students, and that gives me an insight into what's going on. But also I can see how they are responding to each other, and they're seeing that other people are doing a good job, and that's helping them realize that they're part of a team and part of a community as well. So that would be why I would do that, Andrea. Kulka said that it's a bit more serious this second half. It is a bit more serious, I think, but I think a lot of those ideas are quite fun as well, and hopefully you can build them in to the, you know, you can build some fun activities into them. Kulka's also asked for that last page again. So if you want to take a screenshot of that, you can. If you want to, I think this is being recorded, so I think you might get a recording of this, so you can have it. I can send also a PDF of this presentation to Courtney as well, so she can do with it. If you want it, then you could contact Courtney as well. Okay, so thank you everybody for your time. Thank you everybody for participating in the chat box. I've really enjoyed it. I'll tell you a secret. This is the first time I've done a webinar for about a year since lockdown. I did a few last May, but I haven't done one since. I was very nervous at the start, but you've been lovely. So it's been really, really lovely to be here. So thank you very much for all your comments and your participation. And I hope I'll speak to you again sometime soon.
Gareth, can I ask you one question? There's one question in the discussion box. When you were speaking about the recipes, Naomi asked if it's better to have them choose a couple recipes, or you choose recipes for them to do. So you wouldn't yourself pick one or two ideas that all the students would have to do to make a presentation.
That reminds me of a story that somebody told me a few years ago about how to get your children to get dressed, where if you say, what do you want to wear, you could spend hours picking out clothes, but if you say, do you want the blue dress or the red dress, then they've only got a choice between two things, and then that sort of makes it a little bit easier. I don't have children, so I don't know if that's true, but it's a story that somebody told me. Obviously, if the students are spending a long time trying to make a decision, what recipe am I going to go for, and you know that your students are likely to do that, then maybe you need to narrow that down yourself and give them a few things that they can choose. Personally, my instinct is I want the students to choose that for themselves, but I understand that maybe that would be too much for some students, or too much stress for the teacher, or they might never get onto the recipe because they're arguing if they want to do bolognese or roast beef. So I think that's a teacher decision to make in the classroom, depending on how you know your student. So that would be a call that you would make. in a perfect world, I'd give them the choice, but I know that we don't live in a perfect world. I hope that's not a perfect answer for the question, but I hope it is an answer for the question.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for Gareth? Does that seem to be? Thank you very much for doing this for us, Gareth.
My absolute pleasure.
I will be sending you all a feedback form for you to fill out, in which you can choose the books you'd like to take a look at, request your certificate, and get the link to the replay. And then I will also be in contact as well. I did all this so that I could, normally I'm in your schools, in your classrooms talking to you. I can't do that obviously this year. But we can do quite a few things over Zoom. And if there's anything you'd like to take a look at or have any questions, I am happy to do that for you from the comfort of my office, as I've been doing for the past year. The good thing is that we have all these tools, these classroom presentation tools, and I can show you the online practice, for example, for Bright Ideas. There's lots of things I can show you and have access to without having to carry it on my back. So my back is doing much better this year, if nothing else is. So thank you. Let me know if you guys have any questions, and I think I'm about ready to shut her down unless somebody else has any more questions here. Let me go through. Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you all for coming. This is the last day, so no more ELT Spring conference. Hopefully next year we can do it in person. All right. Thank you all. Have a lovely sunny day inside your homes. See you next year. We can talk before that. Again, you can call, you can email. I'm happy to help. Bye. Thank you.